This evening's scripture reading will come from 2 Samuel chapter 7, verses 5 through 17. This is the Lord talking to Nathan. 2 Samuel 7, 5 through 17. Go tell my servant David, this is what the Lord says. Are you the one to build me a house to dwell in? I have not dwelt in a house from the day I brought the Israelites out of Egypt to this day. I have been moving from place to place in a tent as a dwelling. Wherever I have moved with all the Israelites, did I ever say to any of their rulers whom I commanded to shepherd my people Israel, why have you not built me a house of cedar? Now then, tell my servant David, this is what the Lord Almighty says. I took you from the pasture and from following the flock to be a ruler over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone, and I have cut off all your enemies from before you. Now I will make your name great like the names of the greatest men of the earth. And I will provide a place for my people Israel and will plant them so that they can have a home of their own and no longer be disturbed. Wicked people will not oppress them anymore, as they did in the beginning and have done ever since the time I appointed leaders over my people Israel. I will also give you rest from all your enemies. The Lord declares to you that the Lord himself will establish a house for you. When your days are over and you rest with your fathers, I will raise up your offspring to succeed you, who will come from your own body, and I will establish his kingdom. He is the one who will build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, and he will be my son. When he does wrong, I will punish him with the rod of men, with floggings inflicted by men. But my love will never be taken away from him, as I took it away from Saul, whom I removed before you. Your house and your kingdom will endure forever before me. Your throne will be established forever. Nathan reported to David all the words of this entire revelation. You may be seated.
When I moved here over 18 years ago, one of the ministries of this congregation that impressed me so much is what we call Dream Sunday. And it has changed. Over those years, it's kind of taken on a different look. I remember it was the fall of 2004, and we've always done Dream Sunday, I think, in October. And so that would have been the first year that I experienced that. We had 6 elders. We had 6 adult Bible classes at that time. Each elder, or one elder, went into each of the 6 adult classes. We had a hard copy of a dream sheet. It kind of looked like a church bulletin in the front and inside and on the back, and the elders would walk through each question. And as they talked about different dreams for the congregation or different aspects of dreaming, some of it had to do with the building, the physical building, classrooms, auditorium, the gym, things like that. Some of it had to do with our classes and what we study. Some of the questions had to do with mission work, but they asked every member of the congregation. I think they even encouraged the youth minister to go through this process with all of the teenagers. And then after that Sunday, and after all of the members had an opportunity to write down their dreams for the future, the work of the church in this place, they would compile all of those dreams. They would tabulate all of the different ideas, all of the different dreams that you shared on that Sunday, and they would prioritize. And when I say that, I think they prioritized the dreams by how often they were mentioned. and how biblical in nature those dreams were. And if it seemed like a large number of the members of the congregation continued to share the same idea, shared vision, shared dream, and it was a biblical idea, the next thing that they would do is they would try to find a way to include that in the following year's budget. They would put the finances of the church behind your dreams. And I just remember when I experienced that for the first time, that it left a great impression on me. I thought that it said something wonderful about the health of the congregation in the leadership of this elders. That they encourage the members to dream and that they listen to your dreams. Well, that's changed as far as the format. We don't do Dream Sunday in Bible class on Sunday morning. We do it now. Last couple of years we've done it on a Sunday evening during the evening worship hour. We don't hand out, a piece of paper. I think if you're interested in the dream sheet this year, it's on the church app, Church Center app. I knew I was going to get that wrong. The Church Center app, and it's on our website. If you haven't taken the time to go and fill out that survey, I hope you will. I hope that there isn't anybody in this congregation that's reached an age where they think they're too old to dream. And I hope there isn't anybody in this congregation that thinks they're too young to have a dream to serve the Lord. This idea, and I think it's the thing that impressed me so much about Dream Sunday. It's a message that's being sent by the spiritual leaders of this church. Dreamers are wanted here. This eldership is interested in your dreams. What do you want to do with your life? How do you want to serve the Lord? Sometimes the idea is not original with you. Sometimes you've been traveling or you've moved here from another community and you worked with a church in a different place. But when you come here, you realize that we're not doing something that you experienced in another place. And it was a great work. It was a good ministry. And you enjoyed serving the Lord in that way. And you wish we'd do here what you were a part of, the church that you came from. Well, I think it's a pretty incredible thing when you have elders who encourage every member to dream, and they're interested in hearing your dreams, and then they work actively to transform your dream into reality. And everybody works together. Now, what does it look like? And I'm going to try to give you what I think are some of the outstanding examples in chronological order from the time I started. And if I leave out something that is important to you, it wasn't intentional. But these are some of the things that when I moved here, we weren't doing. But someone came to the elders, and it's not always on Dream Sunday. Sometimes they ask for a private meeting, and they come in on a Tuesday night, and they meet with the elders, and they share the dream of their heart. Sometimes it's a member of the congregation. Sometimes it's one of the ministers on staff. I remember when we started Focus Week Bible Camp. In preacher training camp, affirming the faith. Grief Share may have started before I was here, but it seems like that's happened since I started working with the congregation, and members of the congregation lost loved ones and made the appeal that we would have a ministry like Grief Share, the recovery program, the Move Conference, the one-year ministry internship where a recent graduate from one of our Christian colleges or preacher training schools would come and spend 1 year learning ministry from this congregation. Word Warriors, Trunk or Treat, Mighty Men, Serving Sisters, the Community Breakfast, the new college age ministry, the Tea Party, the spirituality, that's hard, spirituality, tea, emphasis on the tea. I think it's great to look back and see that there was a time we weren't doing those things. And somebody had a dream, and they shared that dream, and they prayed about it, and they gave financially to support it, and they worked to make their dream a reality. And I want you to know that's what Dream Sunday is about. There are 3 stories as we think about dreaming to build the kingdom and strengthen the kingdom. There are 3 stories in the Old Testament about building. And I want you to see these stories, and I want you to notice something that's dramatically different from one of these stories and the other 2. There's the building of the ark and the building of the tabernacle and then the building of the temple. In Genesis 6, 9 through 18, God notices Noah. He's a just man, a perfect man in his generation, and Noah walked with God. But God also noticed that the earth was corrupt and filled with violence, and he looked upon the earth, and indeed he said it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted their way on earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them. I will destroy them with the earth. He says, make yourself an ark. And I want you to understand, I won't read the rest of that, but I want you to understand something. God comes to Noah and he says, I'm looking at the state of the world, at every inclination of the thoughts of their heart, only evil all the time, and I'm not going to put up with it anymore. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to build an ark, and you and your family are going to go into the ark, and I'm going to have a covenant with you, and I'm going to save you, and I'm going to start over. But as you read the rest of that passage, God tells Noah exactly what he wants him to build. He tells him about the material. He gives him all of the dimensions. He talks about the number of decks or stories that are going to be a part of that ark. And then Noah does everything just as God commanded him. The second major building project, and you may think of others, I'm focusing on these 3, the ark, the tabernacle, and the temple. In Exodus 25, 1 through 9, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they bring me an offering from everyone who gives it willingly with his heart. You shall take my offering, and this is the offering which you shall take from them: gold, silver, bronze, blue, purple, and scarlet thread, fine linen, goat's hair, ram's skins dyed red, badger skins, acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing, oil for the sweet incense, onyx stones, stones to be set in the ephod, in the breastplate, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them, according to all that I show you. That is the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, just so you shall make it. And as you follow the rest of that story, you'll notice over and over again that Moses builds it exactly according to the pattern. He obeys God down to the smallest detail. God is going to have this tabernacle where he will dwell, and it will move around. Wherever they go, he's going to go with them. And God says, I want you to build it, and here are the materials that you need to build the tabernacle. Here are the dimensions, and this is exactly how I want you to arrange it, how I want you to set it up. You have the ark, you have the tabernacle, and then you have the temple. And I'll read from 2 different passages. Brad already read for us a good portion of this story from 2 Samuel chapter 7. In the first 3 verses, we're told that it came to pass when the king was dwelling in his house and the Lord had given him rest from all his enemies all around, that the king said to Nathan the prophet, see now, I dwell in a house of cedar, but the ark of God dwells inside tent curtains. And Nathan said to the king, go do all that is in your heart, for the Lord is with you. We know that God spoke to Nathan, and he corrected Nathan. And he told him that David wasn't going to be the one to build the temple. That God would build a great house for David and a kingdom that would last forever. And he would enter into a special relationship with David's son Solomon. Solomon would end up being the one to build the temple. I want you to listen to what Solomon says at the dedication of the temple in 2 Chronicles chapter 6, verses 3 through 9. He said, "It was in the heart of my father David to build a temple for the name of the Lord God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, whereas it was in your heart to build a temple for my name, he said, you did well that it was in your heart. Nevertheless, you shall not build the temple, but your son who will come from your body, he shall build the temple for my name." I want to point out the simple difference between the first two projects and the third. And then I want to say some things about dreaming. What set apart the construction of the ark and the construction of the tabernacle from the building of the temple is that in the first two cases, those building projects had their origin in the mind of God. It's not something that Noah had in his heart to do for God. It's not something that Moses had in his heart. These things began in the mind of God. God made his mind known to men, and then Noah in Moses fulfilled God's plan. That's not what happened with the temple. In fact, as Brad was reading a good portion of 2 Samuel 7, one of the things that God said to the prophet Nathan was that he'd never asked anybody to do that for him before. He'd never asked, of all the times that his ark and the covenant and the tabernacle had moved with his people from place to place, he'd never asked anybody to build a house for him. You see, that dream didn't originate in the mind of God. It originated in the heart of David. Here's what I want you to think about when it comes to dreams, things that we learn from David. David's dream came to him as he was thinking about the goodness of God. He was resting in a secure place in the peace that God had provided, in a place that was comfortable. And as he looked around at all that he enjoyed and all that God had done for him, the thought sprang into his mind that he'd like to do something for the Lord. And I think there's something about gratitude, something about the joy of all the blessings that God has poured out on us that makes us want to do something great for Him, causes us to want to dream. I want you to know, as we talk about dreaming spiritual dreams and what we learn from David's example, that just because you have a dream doesn't mean that God will use you to accomplish it. I think that's hard to hear because there's something passionate, there's something exciting. We have an idea of some great thing that we want to do for God. And I think that happened with David. I want to build God a house where he can dwell. I want to build it for him. And God said, David, you're a man of blood. And it was good. I like that he's commended. It was good that you had this in your heart. But you're not going to be the man that makes this dream a reality. And sometimes you may have a dream, but God uses somebody else to make your dream a reality. And sometimes you may not live to see the fulfillment of your dream. The dream may begin with you, but it may not be accomplished until after your death. You might put time and money and energy into your dream, but God will use somebody else to fulfill it. When I was reading this story, it wasn't described as the Temple of David. It was described as the Temple of Solomon. The dream was a dream of David, but the temple was Solomon's temple. Somebody else may get the credit. But you know, none of that matters. As long as your dream glorifies God, as long as your dream is a dream that meets the needs of people around you, and as long as your dream accomplishes God's will, it doesn't matter who gets the credit, and it doesn't really matter whether you get to be a driving force in bringing that dream to reality. What matters, I think God would say to us what he said to David: it was good that you had that in your heart, but I might use somebody else to fulfill it. Sometimes we become aware of your dreams because of Dream Sunday, and sometimes people just ask to come in and meet with the elders. And that happened after the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade. Landon and Hannah Reeves came in and I thought made a passionate case. If we're against abortion, we should be for adoption. And we should financially support families in our congregation that either want to foster children or adopt children that need a family, that need a home. They made a good case. And the elders, because they're wise, didn't just listen and encourage, they gave them counsel. And they encouraged them to actually go and meet with members of this congregation who have experience with adoption. 3 of our families, Grant and Vanessa Morgan, Carrie and Jennifer Campbell, Scott and Melanie Hankins. And also in that meeting are people that have helped with adoption. Whitney Hartman has worked with the Angels Foster Family Network. Marlene Williams has been a strong supporter of that. Well, they all met and they prayed about it, and they planned and they discussed and they dreamed, and I got to be there when they came back in and gave a report to the elders, and I thought it was a tremendous idea. I was excited about it, and I immediately thought it's something that fits what we're doing today and what we're doing tonight. And because I think they'll do a better job explaining it than I will, I've asked Grant Morgan to speak for the group and come share a wonderful new opportunity for a new ministry here at North MacArthur.
Good evening, and before I begin introducing this new ministry that we have starting, I would like to just kind of reaffirm what Tim said at the beginning of tonight's lesson, and that is we have an eldership here that is willing to support dreams and support ideas. I know many congregations, elders can sometimes get a negative reputation of being the no man or the trying to limit what people are doing, but the short time I've been here, I've been able to see the eldership get behind not only some ideas of mine with the community breakfast, but also the idea that Landon and Hannah brought forth to them recently about the adoption ministry. So that's what I'm here to talk to you about tonight. This is our first time kind of bringing it to the congregation, but it's been going on for the past probably month of us getting together, meeting, and flushing out this idea of what this ministry is going to look like. And so when they approached Vanessa and I about being a part of this, we were excited. As many know, we have adopted 3 times, and our experience with adoption was we had a good support system with our family and our friends and our church community, but we did not have a good resource that would help us through that process of adoption. Adoption is not an easy process. It has a high price with it financially, and it also can be emotionally draining and very difficult to navigate. And a lot of things that me and Vanessa had to figure out on our own. And there were many things that we didn't figure out until our 3rd adoption. And so we learned the hard way of what there is out there to help you through the process. And there's actually some things that we're still learning about as we're putting this ministry together with these other families. And so we're kind of excited that there's a congregation that now will be out there willing to help people go through the steps that we were going through. And so it's exciting to announce that we will be starting the Shining Stars Adoption and Foster Care Ministry, as you can see here on the screen behind me. This ministry will not just be focused on adoption, but it will also include foster care. So we plan on supporting both sides of the ministry. So we will have 3 areas of focus in this ministry. The first one being adoption families in the North MacArthur congregation. We want to help support those families that will have a desire to adopt, whether it be helping them financially, or maybe helping them raise money, or get connected with the resources that will help them to navigate the system. Our long-term goal is to be able to foster a support to those families that are going through that process. The second part of the ministry will be the foster care families in the North MacArthur congregation. Not everybody has a desire to be an adoptive family, but there's a big need, as we will address here in a few minutes, for foster care families. And so we would like to try to be able to support families here in the congregation in the process of fostering kids, whether that be supporting them in physical needs, purchasing different items that they need to bring a child into their home, or the emotional needs that go along with bringing a child from the foster care system into your home, or connecting with the different available resources out there. And then the third part of this ministry was going to be the foster care families and first families in the community around us. Okay, so I threw out a word in there that Tim asked me earlier, what is a first family? And that's something I had to ask Vanessa because she's the one that kind of gave me that term. A first family is, I'm going to read it so I don't mess it up. A first family is the biological family that is at risk of having their children placed in DHS custody. So when we first started this ministry, we realized, okay, long term, it's going to be great if we can get families that want to adopt. It's going to be great if we can get families that want to foster. But immediate need right now is there are families around us that need help. And some of those families are families that are trying to avoid their children being put into DHS custody. There are families that are striving to take steps to prevent that from happening, but there may be a financial need that is hurting them. There may be a physical need that's hurting them. And there are ways that we can support that family. And there's also families around us in this community that have accepted kids from the DHS system into their families, and they too are needing help with support. And so until we can develop the adoption and foster care system, idea here in the congregation, we have an immediate way that we can help the families in our neighborhoods. And that is through a system called the Care Portal. And so that's going to be what our main focus is on tonight, is talking about what is the Care Portal. Care Portal is a group that connects churches with families in their community. So foster care families that need assistance, or first families that are working to keep their children. So the way that it works is a DHS caseworker. And if I do a lot of reading, I usually don't like to read, but I'm trying not to mess up wording because I know that can be kind of a touchy subject if I say the wrong word here. So the way it works is a DHS caseworker that is working with one of these families will put a need into the Care Portal system. That need will be emailed to anyone that is signed up in the Care Portal system that lives in that community. At that point, you have the option to help. Okay, so basically, the leaders that were mentioned by Tim that have been a part of this ministry, we are all now signed up in this Care Portal system. And so over the past couple of weeks, we've been getting emails of families around this church building that have a need. It may be a simple need, like I need $50 for medication and I don't get paid for a couple weeks. I need the money now because the medication's needed. Or it may be I'm about to be evicted and I need help with rent. It can be a whole, or it could be as simple as I just accepted a child into my house and I don't have a crib, or I don't have a car seat. There are a wide range of needs that come across, and we get an email once those needs are recognized, and we have the option of saying, yes, I can help with that need. And so as a congregation, we now are a part of this care portal system. So we now have the ability to assist these families around our congregation. So when you decide to meet this need, a caseworker, the DHS caseworker, will help facilitate that need. So if I say I want to help that person with their medication, I say I accept this need, I will help facilitate it, and then the DHS worker will contact me and work out the details. So there is going to be more information on Care Portal, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So why is Care Portal needed? There are currently 6,723 kids in Oklahoma foster care. 1,112 of those are here in Oklahoma County, and there are only 555 foster homes in Oklahoma. Doesn't take a mathematician to realize that's a problem. And so there's a big need to meet here. And that's why the Care Portal system was created, is to get the church involved with helping these people. And so there is much more that I could go on and tell you about this new ministry, and it would take a while because there are many facets of the ministry that we plan on expanding into as it grows. But tonight, the main point for me being here is to, one, announce that we have this new ministry. The next point is to let you know that there is actually going to be a meeting that everyone is invited to. So a congregation-wide meeting will take place on November 10th at 7 o'clock in room 120, I believe, yes, which is the 40s classroom. I believe that's the right room number. If not, we'll figure it out. But yes, November 10th, a Thursday night, 7 o'clock, there will be a meeting. It'll be a great opportunity to come ask questions, to come learn more about what we are currently doing with the Care Portal system and what we plan on doing going farther with the rest of the ministry. And last, if you notice, there's a table in the lobby that some of the members of this ministry will be at after worship. If you already are willing to jump on and help out with this ministry, we can sign you up tonight. If you're willing to jump in and be a part of the Care Portal system, there's a way that we can get you connected with that as well tonight. Or if you just have more questions and you don't want to wait for the congregation meeting where you can't make the meeting, we'll be out there to answer your questions tonight. So with that being said, I hope that everyone realizes that this is a ministry not just for families looking to adopt or families looking to foster, but it's a ministry for all of us, because whether you're young, old, single, married, there is a way that you can assist in this ministry. And so please come out, hear more about it, come to our meeting, ask questions. We have a great group that's willing to sit down and talk with you. Now I get to make the fun transition into offering an invitation. We always want to make sure that we extend an invitation when we meet. So if there's anyone that needs prayers, if there's anyone that needs to respond to the gospel, or if there's anything that you need tonight, there is an opportunity for you to come forward as we stand and sing.